Okay, we get two mics after all.
Does this work? Oh, hi everybody.
Hi. So this is Maggie. I'm Jesse. We are the co-executive directors of Cash Music, a small nonprofit that builds free and open source tools for musicians to use to promote, distribute, sell, do whatever they like online. While we're talking about teams and team size, this is also the entire staff of Cash Music. So
and I do not code.
Yeah. So we're very, very small. When we say small, we really mean it. Really, I think what we want to do today is we have spent our entire professional lives working with and for musicians. That's, for me, about 15 years. For you, well, longer. It's fine. But I think our perspective is a little bit different than some of the folks in this room. We are not necessarily internet-first types, or we have become that way over time. So really, we're trying to give a look into our perspective as much as we are the work that we've been doing.
Oh, hey, it's my turn. This is Bikini Kill. They were a band that formed in the early 90s after meeting at the Evergreen State College. They, partly as a result of feeling alienated from their own punk community, they wanted to encourage girls and women to create music as well. You know, originally punk had been more inclusive of women and people of color and gay people, and then through the 80s in American hardcore, it got very masculine and very exclusionary. So Kathleen, Kathy, Toby, and Bill decided that they wanted to do something about that. They wanted to start a band that encouraged participation, that asked women to come to the front of the stage and create a safe space to dance, to be a part of the experience. They wanted to demystify the recording process. They wanted to demystify, you know, publishing. They wrote their own fanzines. They encouraged women to write. There's a quote, actually, and yes, Toby is my sister. There's a quote that she recently wrote about recording the first EP. We did it ourselves using old typewriters, Sharpies, rub-off letters, and stencils. We crossed stuff out and rewrote it and left it looking messy. Words fell off the page and got taped back on. You can see the tape, you can see our fingerprints, you can see coffee stains. We used snapshots and blown-up color copies. You can see the dots, you can see the process the printer used, and you can see the lines we drew on the page to guide us. Nothing is straight, everything is crooked. We didn't want our relationship to the means of production to be invisible. We wanted to incite participation. In looking to change their world, they changed all of ours. They believed that encouraging women to play music would then change the world. And if you look at every major city in America, there's a rock and roll camp for girls you can send your children to. Look at Pussy Riot and Vladimir Putin. They are a direct descendant of that line.
So I first met the internet around 1994, 1995. I had been around computers my entire life. My mother raised me. Really, my first baby toy was those the rings, the Write Protect rings from magnetic tape. But the internet felt different. You know, the first time I actually vividly remember seeing the Netscape Navigator 2.0 splash screen in all its pixelated glory and thinking that there was this world of infinite possibilities in front of us, that anybody could build anything they wanted, and it was this really exciting thing at the time. There was a very clear and very loud and obvious technical challenge, a technical hurdle for people to get involved, but it still felt like everyone was welcome. Now the internet seems much more commercially driven. Between corporate silos and closed APIs, between the sheer volume and amount of money that's being pushed through it, I think it's becoming a much more complicated place for the logistics of it. But also, oh, I'm standing right in front of it. This is from internetmap.net. I had never seen it until yesterday. Kind of neat. This is my Hail Mary for what do you put for a picture of the internet today. But really, I think the point here is just that with the size and scale both of web apps being what they are now and of the actual internet now, it's intimidating not just for technical reasons now, but it's also intimidating for the sheer you know, there's almost this perception, this sort of vocal minority right now, that you should be a professional if you're going to build a web app, if you're going to build your own thing online. Otherwise, stay to social media, get out of there. And a lot of the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis are, they feel very excluded from the idea of building their own presence online, from building their own things. It's not the same get your hands dirty feel as it once was. And really, I think we'd like to see that change. So we're hoping to find sort of get back to that sort of feeling of an infinite possibility internet from 1994, 1995 by encouraging more people to take part in the internet itself, by recognizing the skills and experience of non-technical people and sort of embracing a larger culture and a larger community to build these things going forward. And that's a big piece of really the themes for everything we're going to be talking about today. This is Kristen Hirsch. She's a friend. This is Kristen Hirsch, and this is my daughter, Clementine. Kristen is her godmother. So she's family. I'm not going to say anything bad about her. That's just how it is. But even with that, she's an amazing woman, an amazing person. I think in terms of musicians, I've been more inspired by her and her innovation than almost anyone. She crowdfunded a record a year and a half before Kickstarter launched. She did a pay what you want model download system for some of her songs way before Radiohead ever did. To this day, she is supported by a subscription community of her fans. That is how she gets her recordings out into the world. That's how she seeds her stuff. And that is really everything she has done as an innovator. She doesn't talk about it. She rarely talks about the innovations she has put forth because all she ever wanted was a job as a musician. It's what she is extremely good at. Her band, Throwing Muses, sold millions of records. They were the first American band signed to 4AD Records, which is one of the driving forces behind the 90s alternative scene. All she wants is basically to be a plumber or a farmer and have an everyday job and be paid to make music, and that is what she is looking to do. And that is why she's driven so much innovation.
I'm so disappointed we didn't wear the Run DMC jumpsuits right now.
I know, they're expensive. I looked into it.
I didn't know there was going to be 2 microphones. Okay. Wait, where am I here in my story? Okay. The music industry is a complicated place. If you want to we'll just take one small example here. Let's say you're in a band, you're licensing a song to Gossip Girl, right? So you need to understand how copyright works on a song. You need to understand how ownership works in order to make all of the revenue streams that are out there for that one song, for that license, that particular license. So take a song, divide it in half. One half of that song belongs to the copyright owner, sometimes the label, sometimes the artist, sometimes a combination of both. A quarter of that belongs to songwriting, and that's divided up into another half. And half is music, half is lyrics. And then in the band, you guys have to decide who wrote what, because there's not really a lot of traditional songwriters anymore. You know, like the drummer might not have been there that day, so he gets written out of that or whatever. And then you have to sign up for a PRO like ASCAP or BMI with that percentage. And the final 25% is publishing. Now, an artist can own their own publishing. They can sell it to a larger publishing company. They can have a publishing company admin theirs for a while. They can lose all the rights, whatever. Publishing refers to the printing press. It refers to the 15th and 16th century when music was when it was sheet music. Like, that's how people made money from music forever, was sheet music. This is what we're talking about. It's these archaic technologies. There's a royalty within that called the mechanical license that you might have heard. That is when that actually refers to a player piano. No shit. It refers to a fucking player piano. That's the copyright holder pays that to the publisher for printing a CD. These are outmoded and archaic technologies, and how are we supposed to expect artists to understand this? I've worked, as Jesse said, I've been in the music industry for over 18 years. I've been an artist for 20. I still explain this to people on a regular basis. People who've sold hundreds of thousands of records, they have no clue. And they're just losing money. So there's general narratives about the industry. All labels are bad, recorded music has no value, et cetera, et cetera. But there needs to be some kind of infrastructure for artists to be able to understand this world. And sometimes it is a label. Sometimes the label is a good place. If this is sort of a startup crowd, if you call it, consider a band a startup. They need capital. They have an idea, they have these great things, but they need money to do it. Thankfully, Kickstarter has made it a lot easier to crowdfund. But once you still do that, you need to understand marketing and sales and distribution and production and publicity. These are all, not small tasks. I've spent my, whole adult life learning these things. I think that's all.
So this is Jamie Stewart. He is really the heart and soul of a band called Shushu. If anyone knows Shushu in the audience, they know what I'm talking about when I say that Shushu's music is not for everyone. It is emotional and draining and difficult. He has an incredibly loyal following, global audience, but he dives into everything from abuse to sexuality and beyond. The records, they don't sell like they used to. He was never destined for major label stardom. He was never going to be a pop star or a radio hit. Pretty much guaranteed that. He also isn't going to make his living on the sort of scaling idea that is being put out with the idea of streaming music as a revenue source. The idea that all art has to scale, that all musicians should have to get 1 million people listening to their songs for them to have value is actually kind of a problem in my mind. And I think Jamie is one of those key examples. He is one of the people who, when things are hard, when we are building this and the times are lean, and over the last 5 years that we've been building Cash Music, they have been plenty lean. Jamie is one of the people that keeps me going because I feel like art like his deserves to be supported. It's brave and it's true. And I think that we have to remember that music itself is sort of a natural resources economy. We have to absolutely consider the musician as well as the listener and the rights holder. And that is an absolutely vital piece of this. And you don't hear the musician talked about enough. So that's why we're talking about him. So what have we built? I know we've been sort of rambling confusingly for a while, and that was my idea for what do you do in 15 minutes. The first thing about what we built is that we built a nonprofit, and everything we do is free and open source. That combination is actually really important. The nonprofit itself, a lot of people just think it's for write-offs, but a nonprofit is an entity that owns itself with no external ownership allowed. So that means any intellectual property we generate cannot be bought and cannot be sold. And that is hugely important, especially in music, because everything that comes along eventually gets bought or sold. Open source is vital too, because that means that everybody can still get their first mover credit, people can still be innovative, but they can build on a base. And anything they do can come back to the community. It's still viable for businesses to build on top of everything we do, and we actually encourage it and want to see that. We're trying to make a cooperative model rather than a competitive model. The way we built it is unique. We've taken about 5 years at this point. It's been built 95% by one person. We're starting to grow into a much, much larger organization to 1.5 people. That's 50% growth. But we've built every single thing we've done with musicians of every size, scale, genre imaginable. Over 165 projects to date. It started with as simple as just a little bit of scripts. Find them, customize them, tweak them, build it again, build it again, build it again, until we started building out a platform. The entire thing was done with the people we're trying to build for, and that was very intentional. So it's been a slow cooking way of building this stuff. Now, as for what it is itself, I don't usually get to go into technical stuff, so I'm gonna sneak there a little bit just because this crowd will actually get it. It's still boring as fuck, and I'm sorry, but I just, I can never explain it to anybody but my mom. Seriously, she's the only person that gets it. So basically what we did is we realized there needed to be a solution that would work for musicians to use themselves, and it also had to work for developers to be able to build on top of it to customize it. So we needed ubiquity, we needed to go anywhere, we built it with PHP. So that could be downloaded, installed on literally any web server that costs $2 a month, and off it goes. So we built a core framework in PHP that manages your third-party connections, your APIs, everything from S3 to PayPal to you name it, plugs right in. On top of that core framework, we built a consistent PHP API, so the requests and responses would always work seamlessly, very easy to work with, and we could sort of move the guts around as much as we wanted. On top of that, we built a web admin, we built a web API, and on top of that, we built a framework so that developers could build applications that would plug directly into all of this stuff. Essentially, it's an entire stack for people to do really weird, creative shit online with music. This is a very quick look at the kind of way that we're trying to deliver these things. It's all bite-sized, almost like a widget type of system where people define an app, essentially. The ultimate end goal is the idea of essentially an open and portable app store type economy for artists to use. Developers can write what they want. It can deploy to a centrally hosted thing, which we are working on right now, or it can deploy to a self-install version of this thing that goes up on anyone's server. And that same app is viable anywhere it wants to go. So that's what we've built there. Features like things like email collections, email for download, social integrations with Twitter, with Tumblr, with Facebook, all that sort of general stuff you'd expect. direct sales, so using Amazon S3, connecting to PayPal to do actual sales of music downloads, digital sales.
We do not take a percentage.
No, everything uses your own accounts, the works. And we also do things like streaming songs. One of the things we've done a lot actually with people is people don't think about the need. It's really not a very commercial thing, but to do secure streams to press to preview a record 4 months before it's out, because seriously, a leak 4 months out is gonna kill you. So that's the kind of stuff that we've built. This is the last slide, I promise. My friend Deb dared me to use this in the presentation somewhere, and I had even more ridiculous shit throughout before, but this one's really perfect. I figured I'd sound preachy as fuck, especially following Yancey, so yeah, dinosaurs. Like Maggie touched on before, and this is one of the pieces we talk about a lot, the narrative that there is sort of a good versus evil thing going on in music especially is awfully simplistic and something that I don't think is fair to use anymore. Like pretty much everyone in this room, I'm totally happy to say that the RIA are a bunch of dicks, because they are. But, you know, there's an awful lot of experience and system in place in the music industry that's actually very important for us to embrace and to know why it's there going forward. I mean, we're talking about an industry that has intellectual property spanning every single country on the planet. We're talking about models that go back 300 years that are still viable to this day. It's really, really complicated and really, really big and messy, and we need to get as inclusive as possible with industry as we build our solutions going forward. To that end, I'd like to say that the word disruption has been oversold to all of us. Being disruptive is very easy. Anyone right now feels like standing up and yelling fire at the top of their lungs can disrupt the hell out of this conference. It's fixing things that's really hard and really challenging and really vital for us to do right now. There are an awful lot of old models that are right now struggling to figure out what they're going to do in the world, and that's partially because the economy is just awesome right now, and partially because things are in a giant state of upheaval. I think and honestly believe, and I believe that everyone in this room probably believes that the internet itself and that the models that are made available today by going direct to your audience can save these types of industries, can save creative industry, can save artists and musicians specifically. And I think it's awfully vital that we work towards that, including musicians in the language of all the models we talk about, and including musicians in the conversations that we have about those models. It is incredibly important to recognize their skill and their experience going forward. We do it every day, and I would love to see more and more people try to do that on an active basis. So lastly, I just want to say that it's been wonderful being here. Thank you, Andy and everyone else. I hope that all of us here can sort of take this and see all the wonderful and amazing things that are happening here and look at them as a start, not as an end point, not as something to be celebrated, but as something to look at, emulate, and build more things like this in the future. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you.